Live from Citizen TV, this is Tonight with Sam Gituku.
Thank you for choosing Citizen TV on this 25th day of September 2025. And what a week has it been as we watch the events unfolding at the United Nations General Assembly, the developments that include the statement of the President of Kenya, William Ruto, talking about the Haiti deployment, which will be forming part of our main conversation here later on the News Gang, at a time that the National Police Service is also reporting and informing the country and the family of a police officer who went missing a couple of months ago, now confirming that indeed he died, and they are going to communicate to the family directly. Of course, this information is coming some 2-3 days after President Ruto spoke about it in New York. That will be part of our conversation later on the News Gang. But first, let's take a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
We demand with Kenyans that SHA puts her house in order and prioritize payments of funds owed to all hospitals to enable them to continue to offer services.
Put your house in order. Anglican Church tells President Ruto to resolve crises in the health and education sectors. Long staff of the flag. 2 teenagers arrested for desecrating Kenyan flag during a football match involving a team from Somalia at the Nyayo Stadium.
But the synchronization of time made it such that by the time the president was making the statement, I think our officers had not reached the family. Government
under fire over handling of police officer Benedict Kabiru's death in Haiti. Delayed motherhood. A Ministry of Health study now indicates that nearly half of the women in the country have no desire to have children. Our sign language interpreter is Njoki Shege. The church has tonight weighed in on the ongoing crisis in the education and health sectors by calling on the government to urgently resolve the standoff. The Anglican Church of Kenya Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit says the suspension of services by private hospitals to those using Social Health Authority cover is causing thousands of Kenyans untold suffering. The church also wants the Education Ministry to stop its grandstanding and release funds to university lecturers and capitation to schools. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui with the details.
It was during the conclusion of the 27th Ordinary Session of the Provincial Assembly of the Clergy, where church leaders gathered in prayer and reflection over the state of the nation. Top on the agenda was the ongoing stalemate surrounding the Social Health Authority SHA, which has resulted in private health facilities withholding services to patients under the new scheme. The church urging the government to resolve the impasse, noting the critical risk it poses to public access to healthcare.
We demand with Kenyans that SHA puts her house in order and prioritize payments of funds owed to all hospitals to enable them to continue to offer services.
Also of concern to the church is the ongoing crisis in the education sector, which the church described as dire. The ACK pointed to the ongoing university lecturer strike and the delayed disbursement of capitation funds to school as key contributors to the paralysis of learning across the country.
Delayed capitation coupled with an affordable education is putting quality education and general access beyond the reach of many. Government must swiftly act to address the lecturers' grievances and solve this perennial problem once and for all.
1 month into the third and final academic term, many schools continue to struggle amid a significant funding shortfall, a situation that has left parents and institutions in distress. Turning to the governance, the ACK welcomed the recent rollout of the electronic government procurement system as a step towards curbing corruption. However, it called on the Treasury not to ignore the concerns raised by the Council of Governors.
However, it is essential that the resistance and concern by governors be addressed in the interest in promoting a buy-in. It is important that such matters be addressed exhaustively.
The state of the economy was also a major point of concern. The church decried the rising levels of unemployment and the growing sense of hopelessness among citizens as the clergy closed the two-day session. Their message was clear. Urgent action is needed to address the deepening challenges affecting Kenyans across multiple sectors. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
At the same time, 57% of Kenyans interviewed in an InfoTrack poll say the country is headed in the wrong direction, while only 17% are satisfied with its current trajectory. Many Kenyans cite the high cost of living, unemployment, and poor governance as the major contributors. Miriam Nyambura reports.
The latest InfoTrack survey released Thursday shows that 57% of Kenyans believe the country is on the wrong track. 17% say they are satisfied with the way the country is being run. And 21% of the respondents neither believe that the country is headed in the right or wrong direction. The survey was conducted in August this year, involving 2,400 Kenyans across the country.
In September last year, it was at 50%. Of course, we can see there is a widespread, people are not really optimistic about the country. 57% opined that the country is headed in the wrong direction.
According to the findings, 66% of Kenyans blame the high cost of living, 30% cite unemployment, while 15% point to poor governance. Another 15% attribute the situation to the failure by the government to deliver on the Social Health Authority.
There is severity in terms of 70% believe that the current cost of living is quite high. If you meet 10 Kenyans, 7 of them will talk about high cost of living. That's how severe it is. Then, of course, it's even higher if you compare it with last year.
Among those satisfied, 41% cited peace in the country, 37% said the government is performing well, and 28% pointed to signs of economic stabilization. Notably, the high cost of education has emerged as a key issue in the 2025 poll, surpassing health concerns. Miriam Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Now to another story, which is about the National Police Service has appealed against a court order compelling the police to produce arms movement registers in the inquest into the death of Rex Kanyike Masai. In an application filed at the Milimani Law Courts, the police service argues that the ruling, which was to help the court make determination after questions were raised over errors in the register, was irregular, unconstitutional, and in violation of statutory safeguards. In his argument, the officer in charge of the armory, Frederick Okapesi, says his objection to the production of the registers was dismissed, thus undermining his right to be heard. Gatete Njoroge reports.
There are issues which have been raised here that we feel that.
On the day when the third last witness was expected to take to the stand and testify in the inquest into the death of Rex Kanyike Masai, the proceedings were adjourned following an application by the National Police Service seeking to overturn a ruling delivered by the court. In its decision, the court had directed police to produce arms movement registers, which were to be marked as exhibits. In their application, NPS says the ruling was made despite reservations and refusal by the officer in charge of the armory, Frederick Okapesi, to consent to producing the register. Corporal Okapesi, the Central Police Station armorer, in his affidavit, says he objected to the production of the registers based on reasonable apprehension of tampering or alteration while in the custody of IPOA. NPS argued that his objection was not captured and that the move undermines his right to be heard and the transparency of the proceedings.
Illogical.
They further argued that the order compelling the production of evidence was outside Okapesi's authority and contrary to evidentiary rules on public documents as contained in the Evidence Act. NPS says move undermines both confidentiality and the chain of custody obligations binding police armorers.
I'm the one who made that alteration that very morning.
Court made the decision when questions were raised over errors in the register. In his submissions, the officer acknowledged that the register contained errors, explaining that the documents are manually generated and therefore prone to mistakes. He argued that the errors were in good faith, as officers are allowed to strike through to correct the mistake. Court adjourned the inquest to October 30th to allow parties file their responses and submissions. Meanwhile, only 3 witnesses out of the 25 witnesses presented by the prosecution have not testified and will do so when the inquest resumes. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
2 Mogadishu City FC fans caught on camera desecrating the Kenyan flag at the Nyayo National Stadium are now in police custody. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has confirmed the arrest of 14-year-old Muhyiddin Ahmed Abubakar and 17-year-old Ibrahim Haidar Yusuf. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says the two will face desecration charges over the incident that sparked public outrage, as Kamau Mwangi now reports.
14-year-old Muhyiddin Ahmed Abubakar and 17-year-old Ibrahim Haidar Yusuf will spend the night in police custody after they were apprehended by detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations for desecrating the Kenyan flag. The two had on Saturday been captured on camera stomping on the Kenyan flag during Kenya Police FC versus Mogadishu City FC CAF Champions League clash at Nyayo National Stadium. The arrest comes after Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja ordered a manhunt for the suspects following a public uproar online over why the shameful act appeared to go unpunished. Speaking in Garissa during the Jukwaa la Usalama Northeastern Tour, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen confirmed that both will face desecration charges.
Football brings people together. It's not supposed to create conflict. And there is nothing for Kenyans to revenge against Somalia, because Somalia has not wronged any Kenyan. The 2 young men who are involved in that act of desecration of our national flag are personally responsible. The government and the people of Somalia are not responsible at all.
Under Section 2B of the National Flag, Emblem and Names Act, any person who shows disrespect in speech, manner or writing to or with reference to the national anthem or to any specified emblem is guilty of an offence that carries a Kenya shillings 5,000 fine or an imprisonment of up to 6 months or both. Kamau Mwangi, Citizen TV.
Now, the government is scrambling to save face amid criticism over its handling of the case of Benedict Kabiru, the Kenyan police officer serving in Haiti, now confirmed dead. In what appears to be a knee-jerk response, the National Police Service insists it had been in close contact with the family since Kabiru went missing in March. But questions linger after Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen admitted that the family only learned of their loved one's death from President William Ruto's speech on Monday, citing time differences as the reason for the communication lapse. Nora Otieno reports.
One of the Kenyan officers.
3 days after President William Ruto named Benedict Kabiru as one of the 3 Kenyan officers killed in the Haiti mission, the government has finally confirmed his death. Following mounting pressure from the family, who only learned of the tragedy through the media.
Why are they torturing me? Why have they tortured me all that wrong, knowing very well, because I know President Abesi akasema kitu yenye haiko. I urge them, they come out, then they bring the remains of my son. I do what is necessary because I can't believe until I see he's there. He's normal.
That shocking revelation pushed the family to court, accusing the Attorney General's office of withholding critical information and seeking clarity on why they were kept in the dark. The AG's office has since stated it had not received official communication on the death. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen now blames the time difference between Kenya and New York for the communication lapse.
When that news was confirmed, the National Police Service dispatched a team to visit the family. But the synchronization of time made it such that by the time the president was making the statement, I think our officers had not reached the family.
In what seemed like a bid to save face after the communication blunder, the National Police Service issued a statement confirming the officer's death. According to NPS spokesperson Moshiri Nyaga, the officer had been reported missing on March 25, 2025, after armed gangs ambushed security convoys in the troubled Caribbean nation. Nyaga maintained that the family was promptly informed of the incident and has continued to receive regular updates as events unfolded. But the lingering questions remain. Why was the family not informed of his death directly? And why did it take the president speaking thousands of miles away to make the announcement? Questions the family says remain unanswered. Meanwhile, despite President William Ruto admitting to logistical challenges facing the Kenyan-led multinational security mission, the government has heaped praise on the officers, dismissing opposition claims that the deployment was ill-advised.
This was a conscious decision made by the government of Kenya with the support of its parliament, made by the president with the support of the executive, with the parliament, cabinet approving, parliament approving. So no one should let you know that it was a clandestine decision between one or two people. This was a whole government decision.
The National Police Service has revealed that the body of another officer who died in a road accident in Haiti will be repatriated on Friday. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
And on that unfortunate incident and the story of Benedict Kabiru, that's where we want to start on the news gang with our early start this evening. And Yvonne, looking at that statement from the National Police Service, of course, a family that has been in anguish over the past few weeks and months, to an extent that now that the National Police Service is communicating, but there are so many details that are not in that statement.
It has taken 6 months, Sam, for the police to communicate this finally. Remember, this police officer went missing in March of this year. The family has been in anguish and agony over the lack of official communication from the police service about his whereabouts, whether indeed he was alive or not. In fact, so much so, and I know they say there in that statement that it was a time difference issue.
Yep.
Very unfortunate that the family has to hear from the president in New York that their kin is dead. This coinciding with the fact that they had actually gone to court around June or July with a petition to the government trying to get information on it. If you recall, that petition listed the Attorney General, the Inspector General of Police, various ministers or cabinet secretaries as respondents. Even when the president did make that announcement, the Attorney General continued to say they were not aware.
Right.
Never mind, the Attorney General was seated right there in New York, listening to the president's speech. Again, and that statement, by the way, it doesn't say much. Do they have his body? What were the circumstances of his death? Remember, Haitian media since June have been reporting that this officer was killed.
Right.
The Kenyan police continue to say that the search was ongoing. That's what prompted the family to go to court. A very anguishing way for them to hear this news breaking from New York. And once again, just exhibiting what has been the hallmark of this administration, which is lack of communication, improper communication, misinformation, disinformation, or lack of information, and this one with such grave, grave consequences.
And looking at that statement, it begins to indicate to you the sort of terrain that we're dealing with in Haiti. And of course, listening to the president earlier in the week, was addressing the General Assembly in New York, the challenges that are existent there. So far, 3 police officers dead, including Mutuku Nzuve, whose body will arrive in Nairobi tomorrow, which is the 26th of September. I don't know, Linus, what we learned from this tragedy.
I think a lot of things are now starting to emerge about the true state of the Haiti mission. Just going by what the president said in New York, that in itself painted a very, very interesting picture, raising, among other questions, the question of the funding of this mission, because you had the president there speaking and he was not sounding very pleased with how the mission has been handled.
Right.
He almost suggested that it's a flight in the dark. And He went on to suggest also that the equipment that they have received as part of the support from the United States was substandard, and that it was actually putting the Kenyan troops in the mission at risk. All this is said in the US. And then his former cabinet secretary, Moses Kuria, back home here, tweets something to the effect that the government and President Ruto may have been misled about the Haiti mission by former US ambassador to Nairobi, Meg Whitman, for 2 years. And, Moses Kuria, in his characteristic manner, directly said Meg Whitman was running the show for 2 years in Nairobi. And by that, he actually meant including the Haiti issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Bonyo, again, looking at that statement from the police service, it's saying that they've been in touch with the family. It's saying that now, because they have learned of the developments, they have gone ahead to notify the family. I don't know what that says. At a time that you're wondering, like Yvonne was saying, how does the president know new information ahead of the National Police Service? But essentially, how should the National Police Service handle such kind of information when dealing with a family in this particular matter?
Sam, first of all, you might want to ask, where's the compassion? Does it mean that when somebody joins our National Police Service or even the Kenya Defence Forces, they surrender their lives to the state and their family is ignored completely? I'd want to disagree with the CS Interior, claiming that this was a factor of time difference. It is not. The president's speech is prepared days ahead, especially for such meetings, such that it is moderated and edited to fit the occasion. And therefore, the president must have known these days before he flew to New York City. And where is the information flow? How does the president get this information? He gets it from the CS Interior. Meaning, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen must have known these days ahead of the president, because that is how that information flows. He is the principal person to brief the president about the happenings at the Interior Ministry. So by saying that this was a factor of time difference and that the president and the National Police Service must have known this at the same time, tells you that there's a gap in communication. Suffice to say that we have an ambassador in Haiti that must have been given this information and transmitted to Nairobi. So somebody at Ministry of Foreign Affairs must have known too. So this is information that was with the government. And I think the president saying it must have caught the National Police Service flat-footed. And remember, the president says it on the day that the National Police Service, the Attorney General's office, were denying in court that this gentleman was still being categorized as missing.
And I don't even understand which time difference, because Haiti is 7 hours behind Nairobi.
Yes.
New York is how many hours behind Nairobi?
What, 8?
8
hours.
So.
Actually,
but the president knew before Haiti or before Nairobi?
But don't look at it in terms of hours. Let's look at this in terms of months.
Yes.
This incident took place
in March.
6 months ago.
Yes.
If time difference comes in, there's absolutely no way Haiti is 6 months behind Kenya. And this is, again, a question of not taking Kenyans seriously, including the intelligence of the Kenyan people. I don't know what the Interior CS was hoping to achieve with that argument about time difference. If Kabiru had died 7 hours ago, yes, it may pass. But 6 months later, do you want to tell and convince Kenyans that you knew nothing for 6 months and that the last 7 hours you got to hear something? I think the whole question of compassion also comes in, where again the sensitivity of government is put to test. The fact that you are dealing with just a small family called the Kabiru family is no reason to behave this way. And we know the protocols when it comes to communicating deaths. Even we in media, we operate under the same rule of have the first what do you call them? The next of kin been informed.
Yeah.
And I want to give an illustration of the recent of the death of General Ogola.
Yes.
We in the newsroom knew when the chopper went down immediately.
Yes.
We knew how many people were in there. We knew General Ogola was in there, and we knew he was dead. But we delayed for about 3 hours because we wanted State House to be the one communicating to the country.
Right.
This is the decency the family of Kabiru deserved. They didn't need to hear from a press conference in New York or some event in New York that their king is dead. I think it's really, really disturbing. It's a major test for President Ruto in terms of just sensitivity to a fellow human being, a test for Kipchumba Murkomen, the CS for Interior. And the last thing you should do when this has happened is to start telling I don't know how to describe what he was talking about as 6-7 hours, the time difference. I think he needs to respect the family. He needs to respect Kenyans as he explains what transpired. And I think the big thing they should have said is, we are sorry.
Sorry, yeah. And just to quickly reiterate on this matter of decency, it is very clear. I mean, one would imagine that, you know, the government of Kenya has sent 1,000 or so police officers to Haiti, that maybe the first call that the president would have put in before making that speech and memorialize them would have been to the family.
Yes.
Call them, tell them this is the information we have, and express that compassion, not just from the president, the cabinet secretary in charge of Interior, the inspector general of police who commands the entire police service. And then I just want to illustrate again the issue of the time difference. This police officer went missing on the 25th of March. By the very next day, on the 26th of March, the Haitian Presidential Transitional Council already announced his death. They said he fell while carrying out his mission, and they, quote, say he gave his life for a better future for our country. This was on the 26th of March. What a time difference from the 26th of March to now the 24th of September that this is finally being announced by our president.
How many, 7 hours?
Exactly, in there. You're the one with the math. And just, you know, as a final point, this is what really pushed the Kenyan family of them to go to court. And let me tell you, it wasn't just a search in court. They petitioned Parliament. They wrote letters to the Kenya's Attorney General. They also wrote a letter to the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General in Haiti, Maria Salvador. This is the painful quest they've had for 6 months, petitioning the court. In fact, one of the pleas they gave in that court was just, we're asking the government to come out with finality, compelling the government to tell them about the state of their loved ones. It comes 6 months later. This is the time difference we're talking about. Clearly, there's a huge lag in the Ministry of Interior, the Inspector General of Police, and in the President's office.
And of course, Kabiru didn't take himself to Haiti. He was taken there by the government of Kenya. And of course, we'll continue the conversation here later on the News Gang to talk about the Haiti mission itself, the funding, the challenges, even as it approaches the expiry of its mandate on the 2nd of October. Stay tuned for that. But at the same time, Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Chairperson Erastus Ethekon has warned political parties and aspirants against violent party primaries, terming the chaotic scenes witnessed in Kasipul constituency on Wednesday a serious threat to democracy. Appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on the Implementation of the Constitution, Ethekon said that the Commission has developed comprehensive strategies aimed at registering a record number of young people to participate in the 2027 general election, as Emmanuel Toh now reports.
The IBC is describing as unacceptable scenes, such as chaotic that left several people injured and property of unknown value vandalized during the ODM Kasipul constituency party primaries Wednesday.
Our elections, whether primary party elections or the general elections or the by-elections, must be free from violence, must be free from intimidation, must be free from harassment. We urge caution, we urge people to be calm, we urge people to give Kenyans a fair playing ground for them to exercise their rights to freely choose their leaders.
The commission, appearing before the National Assembly's Constitution Implementation and Oversight Committee, said it plans to register over 6.3 million new voters ahead of the 2027 election, with a special focus on the Gen Z demographic.
On Monday next week, 29th September, we are launching the voter registration, continuous voter registration exercise across the country, except for those areas where we'll be having by-elections.
The first thing is to mobilize young people at the grassroots level, where the registration officers are, and also do the digital platform messages and push them there.
And we would like to appeal to all Kenyans to participate in the voter registration, especially the young, those who have not had a chance to vote before in the country.
The commission has hinted at postponing the constituency boundary delimitations, citing impracticality ahead of the 2027 general election. They have been touted as the biggest constituency in the 2027 general election, with the capacity to tilt the scales in the contest, with the IBC now pulling out all the stops to ensure it registers the highest number of registered youth in the 2027 election. Emmanuel Tall, Citizen TV, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
Indeed, mark the day. 29th of September is the day that vote registration resumes. We're taking a short break here on Tonight. We're back with more after a few minutes. Nearly half of the country's women of childbearing age do not have the desire to have more children, a report by the Ministry of Health has revealed. The report, released ahead of the World Contraceptive Day, also shows that more women are now using modern family planning methods, driving up the demand for the same. Brenda Wanga reports.
As the country prepares to mark the World Contraceptive Day, data presented by the Ministry of Health indicates that women in the reproductive age in the country have embraced the use of contraceptives, and the results are a decrease in the number of women seeking to have more children.
That from our data, you can see that 46% of the women do not require more children. 30% still require children, but they want to space. Therefore, this one gives 76% of the population who require contraception. That is family planning.
The ministry also indicates that the fertility preferences in women have changed over the years due to an uptake of family planning methods. However, teen pregnancies are still an issue.
Yes, our children are getting pregnant, and the pregnancy rates are different in different parts of the country. You can see, Samburu was cited.
Trends in contraceptive use in the country show that 63% of women use any family planning method, while 57% use any modern method. 20% use injectables, 19% prefer implants, while 8% use the pill. 4% use the intrauterine device, and 6% use any traditional method. The counties of Nyeri, Kirinyaga and Embu lead with contraceptive use at over 70%, while Tana River, West Pokot, Samburu, Isiolo, Turkana and Kwale have the low modern contraceptive prevalence of between 20 to 30%. However, the counties of Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit and Garissa are ranked lowest, with prevalence rates of between 0 to 14%, which also translates into high fertility rates. At the same time, the ministry indicates that due to the increase in contraceptive use, the number of unwanted pregnancies and unsafe abortions, as well as maternal deaths, will be greatly reduced. The government further says it is set to increase family planning service uptake among special groups, including the youth, people living with HIV, people living with disability, and hard-to-reach areas and displaced populations. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Tension has once again gripped residents of Imbolot in Transmara South in Narok after trucks of police officers arrived in the area to evict locals and pave way for new land buyers to fence off a 400-acre farm bordering the Mara Game Reserve. The arrival of the officers is likely to pit the police against hundreds of youth who have been camping in the thicket for more than a while to protect the land from those individuals they describe as grabbers. Crispin Otieno reports.
For the past 8 months, youth from Keringani in Imbolo, Transmara South, have been living inside this thicket forest, armed with traditional weapons to guard what they insist is their ancestral land. But on Thursday morning, 5 trucks loaded with police and anti-riot officers arrived to provide security to the said buyers of the controversial land as perimeter fencing is set to begin. The residents who had been standing guard day and night were forced to withdraw quietly to avoid violence. However, they maintained.
Na shamba hili ni shamba la community kwa miaka mingi. Ni shamba ambalo ilitengwa mwaka wa 1992 ili kuwe sehemu ya community. Lakini unfortunately kukapatikana na wachache wetu ambao waliweza kushikana na wakaweza kuuza community, wakakuja kujua kwamba imeuzwa. So tunataka tu tuombe serikali ya kwamba polisi wametumwa hapa bila court orders, hatujajua wamekuja kwa njia gani.
With etched faces full of anger, locals vowed they will not give up their struggle.
Lakini sisi kama wakazi wa hapa pamoja na vijana wetu tukaomba ya kwamba hatuwezi pigana na polisi, lakini tunataka haki itendeke.
Kuna vile tulikuwa tumezungumza na mnunuzi wa hii shamba ambaye alinyanyasa community, tukazungumza kwamba lazima tuzungumze kama jamii tuelewane, lakini today tumeshangaa sana kwamba the dialogue nyingekuwa wametuma maaskari.
Hilo shamba ambayo tunaishi ni shamba ambayo hatuishi kama skota, juu ni mashamba yetu yaliyotengwa na mababu zetu, na tunasema vizuri hatuna shida, lakini shida zaidi ni viongozi walioko hapa mashinani.
Transmara South Police Commander Eric Telewa defended the operation, saying officers were deployed to maintain order as the new buyer moved in to fence the land.
Mwenye hapa alikuwa ameleta maombi katika ofisi yetu kwamba kuna watu wamevamia shamba lake. Tumekuja na wakati tumekuta kweli kuna vijana walikuwa ndani, lakini tumewaengage, tukaongea, tukaenda kwa dialogue na wakaona umuhimu ya kuchukua barabara ya kisheria.
With tension still simmering, it remains unclear when or how the Imbolot land dispute will finally be resolved. Crispino, TNO Citizen TV.
Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki has called on elders in Isiolo County to mediate the county's political class and resolve the protracted political differences which has paralyzed service delivery and is threatening peaceful coexistence. Addressing a delegation of 1,500 elders and grassroots leaders from Isiolo County who visited him at his Irunduni home in Tharaka Nithi County, Kindiki, who has been at the forefront of advocating for harmony among leaders in the county, says the fighting among the governor and the county speaker has stalled development projects in the county, including the Isiolo-Mandera Highway and the Lamu-Isiolo Road heading to Ethiopia due to insecurity posed by politically and ethnically instigated tension.
Wakati viongozi wanaleta kisirani na vita na uchochezi, wananchi wataumia. Kwa sababu mambo ya maendeleo itabaki nyuma ikiwa ni mambo ya siasa, mambo ya vita, mambo ya mvutano. Hatutaki kabisa kaunti yetu ya Isiolo ama kaunti nyingine yoyote ile katika Jamhuri ya Kenya iwe na vita na iwe na mvutano, kwa sababu maendeleo yetu itarudi nyuma.
Right, we're taking a short break here on Tonight. When we come back, we have stories in business and sports world, and then thereafter we come back with the news gang. Stay tuned for that. dormant SACCOs which are not in operation will be deregistered and liquidated. Speaking during the release of the annual SACCO Supervision Report, Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya warned that SACCOs have until the end of the month to comply by filing their returns with the Commissioners of Cooperatives, even hinting at possible consolidation of SACCOs following their review. Jimmy Mbogo reports.
The latest SACCO Supervisory Report, which takes account of the year ending December 2024, shows that 7.3 million Kenyans are members of a SACCO society, an increase from 6.8 million recorded in 2023. Of this, 5.7 million members are active, while another 1.6 million members remain dormant. And the report further shows that 6.8 million members are in deposit-taking SACCOs, while 514,000 members are in non-deposit-taking SACCOs. The report shows a slight decline in the number of SACCOs to 356, but the number could reduce further should the government follow through with its plan to consolidate and liquidate some.
Those which are only registered by the name but are not active will be deregistered and liquidated by the Commissioner for Cooperatives as required by the law. Those which are active and viable will be required to be supervised by SASRA. Otherwise, they shall equally be deregistered and liquidated.
SACCO auditors have also been put on notice for quote-unquote cooking books, with Oparanya saying that this has resulted in the loss of funds for some SACCO in the recent past. The CS directing the Commissioner of Cooperatives to rein in on both internal and external auditors who fail to secure correct and accurate financial reporting by regulated SACCOs.
Institute appropriate actions against external auditors who internally failed to render external auditing services in accordance with the SACCO Societies Act and regulation, including a referral of such external auditors to ISPAC for additional sanctions.
SACCOs have also been lauded for crossing the 1 trillion mark, with their combined asset base standing at 1.07 trillion shillings in 2024. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The Kenya Revenue Authority has amended its contentious directive mandating a certificate of origin for all imports. In new guidance, the taxman has eased the rules by exempting certain categories of goods and allowing alternative documents. Nonetheless, experts maintain that this requirement is still in contradiction to the East African Community trade legislations to which Kenya is a signatory. Jasmine Omboy reports.
When the rule first took effect in July, every consignment entering the country, whether commercial or personal, was required to carry a certificate of origin from the exporting country.
A certificate of origin is a formal international document that is used to certify where goods or a specific consignment originated from.
This was a departure from the previous approach where a certificate of origin was only necessary if an importer sought preferential treatment for goods from countries that have an economic partnership with Kenya. The move, anchored in the Finance Act of 2025, sparked uproar from trade professionals, tax experts and industry associations.
This requirement is definitely in conflict with the principal legislation, the East African Community Customs Management Act, and we foresee this requirement being challenged.
The East African Community Customs Management Act takes precedence over individual national laws in EAC member states. However, in its latest notice, KRA has clarified that certain items will no longer need a certificate of origin. This include used goods such as second-hand vehicles, personal baggage, goods imported by privileged persons and institutions, human remains, imported samples of no commercial value, and small packages of prescription medicines. These exempt goods are largely non-commercial.
For the importer who is importing consignment not listed under the goods exempted for this requirement, it means that come 1st of October, you still have to obtain proof of origin.
And where importers cannot access a certificate of origin, KRA now says it will accept alternative documents including an origin declaration, an export permit or license, a customs export declaration, or a conformity certificate from KEBS agents. The changes, which take effect on October 1st, are meant to tighten customs control while easing some of the earlier compliance hurdles.
We understand that the authority is trying to cure the issue of misdeclaration. A certificate of origin will not cure the issue of misdeclaration. If the authority needed to cure that, then they'll be more stringent on issues of tariff declaration and verification of the imports coming to the country.
Jasmine Wambui, Citizen TV.
At the same time, the Kenya Revenue Authority has rolled out USSD services to help those without smartphones, WhatsApp support, and an agent network to aid in access to the authority's services. This is part of a raft of measures to ease tax compliance for small and medium enterprises. Speaking in Mombasa, Acting Commissioner for Micro and Small Taxpayers George Obel says the reforms are designed to tackle persistent barriers such as poor internet access.
136 peke yake, na watu kwa nchi ambao wako kwa ushuru wanafaa walipe ni 21 million, almost 22 million size. Kwa hivyo hapo tuwezi atufiki vizuri, na tuna mpango ya ku make sure tumefika kila mahali, kila pembe zote za nchi, na kwa hivyo kuna nafasi ya kufanya kazi na nyinyi ili nyinyi mtufikishe mahali walipo ushuru wako. Tunaita agency model. Kwa hivyo tunaenda kufanya training na tutachukua watu kuwasajili ili watufanyie kazi hiyo. Na mwaka hii tunaangalia kuchukua 10,000 agents.
The modernization of Nairobi's Jamhuri Park Showground has entered its second phase. The Agricultural Society of Kenya says the expansion will feature large exhibition spaces, upgraded livestock pavilions, and new small businesses incubation centers. The update came during a briefing for next week's 2025 Nairobi International Trade Fair. CEO Bertram Muthoka says the premier event for agribusiness and innovation has already attracted an estimated 500 local and international exhibitors.
We've actually just started the construction of incubation center, business incubation center, so that we can now grow those small people, the SMEs, again, grow them through their businesses, to real-time business. So that's the new thing that comes in after the expo that is complete in usage. When it started some 3 years ago, the budget looking at was about 3 to 5 billion. I'll call it 4 billion in terms of course, that support. We put quite a bit of our capitation as ASK, with again some capital injection from the national government. And again, in the coming week, we'll be engaging the national leadership, the national government, to see how they can chip in just a bit, just to ensure then we complete the phases as planned in the master plan.
Kenya then recovered to shock Korea Republic in 2 straight sets of 7-2 and 8-1. Kenya will face fellow debutants Spain in their next match later tonight. Here is part of the action.
Only be okay. You do have to be careful depending on what type of sneakers you're wearing. Not to slip and slide at the front end of that batter's box. A run across for Kenya. 3-1 the score in the first inning. Both teams lighten it up in the first inning. Here's Bevior Oriambo. Oriambo going to bring a run home. She's out at first. But the run in, and it is 3-2. What an answer from Kenya.
I think we were taken by surprise in the first game. We were not able to understand the pitch, which made it hard for us to play. We lost to Cuba. But we've come back against Korea, which is what we came here to do.
Spain is becoming the new frontier for Kenyan young footballers, with a number of future stars spread across different academies and teams across the European nation. SD Huesca, that hosted the Safaricom Chapadimba All-Stars 2 weeks ago, is the home of two young players that hope to make it big in football in the near future. Our sports editor Michael Kenya was in Huesca and gives us the details.
Huesca is located in the northeastern part of Spain, bordering Catalonia and Valencia in the east and countries of France and Andorra in the north. This is where you find the SD Huesca team that plays in the second division league in Spain. When the Safaricom Chapadimba All-Stars landed in Huesca, they were in good company of Kenyan teenage players Denzel Omolo and Jibril Ismail, who have been in Huesca for some time. The All-Stars shared all the facilities with the two players at the academy.
I was really excited. At least one, I'd get to talk my language, Swahili. You know, here not everyone speaks Swahili, even English.
Enjoyed playing with them, you know. I missed playing with the people from where I'm from, so it was good. These guys are very friendly.
16-year-old Denzel Omolo was scouted in 2023 while playing for Ligi Ndogo in Nairobi. He was selected to join Huesca Academy, but not in 2023.
So the initial plan was for me to finish school, but then I saw if I'd go to school and finish, time would have gone. So I just pleaded with my dad if I could come earlier. Then I managed to.
Getting to Spain early meant he had to adjust his education and football program. He studies during the day, takes a break in the afternoon before taking Spanish classes in the evening. Training on the pitch is from 7:30 p.m. He says the football culture in Spain is very different from Kenya. The facilities and coaching are of the highest standards, right from the academy level to the senior team level.
I like the way they motivate each other when they play, you know. Phrases like no pasa nada, which means like don't worry if you make a mistake, you know, you have to keep your heads up, the game is still going. You know, in Kenya we say game ni 90.
Jibril and Denzel joined the Chapadimba All-Stars in some of their training sessions as well as the friendly matches they played. Being in the academy at Huesca since 2023 has convinced Denzel that Spain is the country that will help change the football fortunes in Kenya.
Once people get to come to Spain, there will be a vast change in the way they play, how they communicate, such things, the way how fast the ball moves.
In Kenya, it was more of running and more physicality, but here it's more technique and tactical. So it's easier playing here. In Kenya, it's more physical.
The Chapadimba All-Stars were given a taste of the professional life of a footballer, right from kitting, training and nutrition that is recommended even for the senior team professionals. Denzel has been through the strict program since 2023.
They know what they're feeding you. They know what's right for you because it's a team and they want the best out of you. As much as it's not pleasing, it's the best for a footballer to take.
The All-Star team had 12 boys and 12 girls that were selected during the Chapadimba Season 4 tournament. 32 were picked, but some of them were committed to their teams and could not make the trip to Spain. At the end of the week-long training camp, which has included a few matches and training sessions, the coaches will pick 4 players. These 4 players are expected to come back to Huesca for the remainder of the season. The selected 4 will rejoin Denzel and Jibril at Huesca, where they will train with the academy for 1 year. Michael Kinyi for Citizen TV.